Hot off the heels of my Elac DB63 review, I shot my shot at a speaker that I thought I missed the boat on, the Elac Unified Reference. And this speaker came out a few years ago when I first started doing reviews, and typically what happens is a speaker comes out, it gets reviewed, and then it kind of goes by the wayside because there's no longer a need to send it out for reviews because everyone's kind of done one already until maybe the speaker gets reissued or updated. But I reached out, they obliged, and they sent it along. And I was super excited. And of course, if you wouldn't mind just liking this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications and whatnot. I'd really appreciate it. It'll help me get more awesome products like this speaker in for review. With this speaker, I watched all the reviews, I read all the articles. I was really curious to see what these speakers actually sounded like in person because all the reviews were raving. It sounded like the audiophiles' perfect speaker. It's a proper three-way bass reflex speaker. It has an MSRP of $11.99 US. It's available in two premium finishes, satin white with oak sides or satin black with walnut sides. My review sample arrived in satin black. It has a frequency response of 41 Hz to 35 kHz. Nominal impedance is 6 ohms. Sensitivity is 85 decibels. Crossovers are at 260 and 1800 Hz respectively. The driver complement is a 1-inch soft dome tweeter that sits inside a 4-inch aluminum mid-range driver. The bass driver is a 6.5-inch aluminum woofer. The bass port is a front-firing dual flared slot that sits just below the woofer. The cabinet is made from MDF. Around the back, you get 5-way bi-wireable binding posts. It measures just over 8 inches wide by 14 inches high by 13 inches deep and weighs 23.5 pounds each. On the design front, I absolutely love the way the speaker looks. It's a very big, imposing bookshelf speaker. It's kind of a modern brute of a bookshelf speaker. It's very masculine in appearance in this black finish that I'm reviewing. The edges of the cabinet are rounded slightly to soften the look. I like the satin black front face. The vinyl wrap is fairly standard. It doesn't look like anything else but a wood veneer finish though. It doesn't trick me into thinking that this is real wood by any stretch. It's not the biggest deal though, because once they are in place, I'm only ever really looking at the front baffle and I only see the sides a little bit. The front face actually does have exposed screws, which do lend to that brutish appearance of the speaker though. When I first got these speakers unboxed, I set them up over here on my desk and just ran them in. From the reviews that I did watch and read, most of them mentioned that you have to spend a good amount of time to run these speakers in to get the best out of them. So that's what I did. I paired them with whatever Class D amplifier that I had in for review that was set up on my desk, and if I'm being honest, it sounded really good because it's a front-ported speaker, so near field, it works really well. After a few weeks when I was done burning them in, I moved them over here, connected them to the Iota VX SA3 and PA3 combo, and listened to them there. This was a stack that I ended up using for the initial chunk of time listening to these speakers. I should note that these speakers do take some time to open up. And when I did feel like these were ready to go, I set them up on either side of my media unit, about 8 feet apart and about a foot away from the back wall. I paired them with the Rotel RAS 5000, the EXA 100, the MyConnect 250 from Advanced Paris, and the aforementioned Iota VX stack. The connected gear was the CXN V2, the CXC CD player, both from Cambridge Audio, with my Apple TV 4K via the Marantz Cinema 70 when I was taking in movies. So truth be told, this is the second time I'm recording this video, and the reason for it is that when I watch my video back against a lot of the other videos that came before mine, and there's a sea of them out there, is mine kind of stood apart as a fair bit different. So there could be one of two things going on here. Either everyone else is wrong and I'm right, or I need to recheck my findings and re-listen to the speaker again because I must have missed something, and usually that's the case. The first time around, this speaker sounded like the way that I imagine audiophiles talking about a great sounding speaker. Tons of detail retrieval and a closer to the source type of sound. It was almost like this speaker sounded like a well-appointed and somewhat excited studio monitor. Not quite flat, but erring on the side of neutrality, control, and refinement. And I found myself only really enjoying the speaker if I wanted to nitpick a recording, listen to a difference in an amplifier, or playing one of my own tracks that I made in my living room and then listening for deficiencies in the mix, and there's usually quite a few of those. I started off my listening with Radiohead's All I Need on the Iota VX stack with no subwoofer connected. And right off the bat, there was just an inherent lack of low-end presence whatsoever, so much so that I had to engage tone controls on the Iota VX stack and just bump it up by 5 notches just to get a semblance of low-end presence out of these speakers. The music itself was very accurate and clean. The highs and the treble had nice balance to them. There was a lot of detail coming out of them, but I was aware of where the speakers were at all times. It was very contrary to my experience with, say, the Quad Ravello bookshelves or the Bucarts, where they seemed to just disappear into my room a little bit more. I had read that these speakers sound very expansive, but I found that they were very focused on my listening position. So I decided to tow them out towards the room a little bit more, and that helped them sound a bit more expansive and less directional towards me. This song, when it finally does hit its stride, it's very expansive and it tends to envelop you on most speakers. But on this speaker, it didn't. It kind of grew and built, but I found myself just listening to the speakers. Playing the music, I wasn't getting enveloped in it. It was a little bit shocking. And it was in direct contrast to the Bucart P300s. When I had those speakers connected to the Iota VX stack, I had to turn the bass back down to flat because there was just way more bass output coming out of these speakers. But they sounded so much more expansive than these did. They were just bigger, wider, fuller. There was more energy. And with that speaker, I just found myself being able to just get lost in the music. And it just felt like it had more soul, which was really surprising to me. It was even more shocking when I moved over to the DB63s and ran this track back. There was more lower end presence, and no, I didn't have to notch up the tone controls at all. But curiously, there was just more air up top. It didn't have the same level of detail retrieval, but I didn't seem to mind listening because I was more just enveloped in the sound coming out of that speaker. And it was the same type of story with one major difference on the EXA100 from Cambridge Audio. That amplifier doesn't have tone controls, so I'm not able to cheat the bass if I feel like it's deficient at all. And when I did run something completely different, like the VIP remix of Destro from Gremlins and Jesta, I mean, if you love yourself some Amens and Jungle, then this is the tune. And I mean, honestly, if you do, you probably already know this. It's the Amen version of the original, which is also awesome. It's very straightforward. It's drums, it's bass, it's some ominous sound effects. But on the Elac Unified reference, it's very clean, very clear. The drums are there, but they just don't have the same type of energy that I'm used to hearing. And when the bass kicks in, there's just nothing there. And it was this sentiment, rinse and repeat, for every bit of music that I mentioned in that review. The speaker just sounded uninspired, kind of flat and dead. Until I reconnected and unboxed the Rotel RAS 5000 again, connected these speakers to it. That amplifier, streaming amplifier, is 140 watts a channel into 8 ohms. It has tone controls. And I ran a piece of music that I'm intimately familiar with. It's LFO by LFO. It's a classic of classics. It's a really simple tune, but crucially, it's got a big, fat, stinky bass line in it. And when that bass line kicked in, with the tone controls disabled, I felt all of that bass that I was missing. So then it became very clear to me in my room, for my listening preferences and my tastes, that these speakers require gobs of power. So I left the Rotel RAS 5000 connected to these and just ran through a lot of my music again. And then I also connected the Advanced Paris My Connect 250. Running back Radiohead's All I Need on this system was infinitely better, more engaging, better imaging, better soundstage overall, more lower end presence, but it was a tighter, more controlled low end. It wasn't all of a sudden a bass monster. It just had more impact, a bit more depth to it. Depending on your personal taste, like I like a bit more of a boosted bass, so the Bucart P300 is kind of the speaker for me, but if you like it to be a bit more reined in, more tighter, more controlled, more, I guess, musical or whatever that term is, I get it now. Like, this is the type of sound that you would enjoy more of. And when I did run back the VIP remix of Destro, it just had more excitement and more punch to it. Across the board, a subwoofer does help. The Bucart Sub 10 does a good job of just filling in that low-end presence and just making it feel like a more full-range sound. And this change to more power was just better across the board. When I switched over to the advanced Paris MyConnect 250 and played Oyster from Heron Flow, it was just bigger and fuller sounding in comparison to like the EXA 100 and the Iota VX stack. Those amplifiers just made this song sound kind of flat and kind of dead, but the MyConnect 250 brought it to life. It was just a wholesale change in sound that I just didn't experience on those other two amplifiers. And those amplifiers made the Bucart sing. They made the DB63s sing. They made almost every other bookshelf speaker that I have in house sound amazing, but not these ones. And that's my big takeaway of my second listen of these speakers. Throw as much power as humanly possible at these speakers to get the best sonic results. They have a maximum power handling of 150 watts on paper, but honestly, if you can get close to 150 watts, you'll get the best sound possible. And now that I'm hearing this speaker properly with all that extra bass presence that I thought was missing, I get that sound. I understand why so many people were gushing about it. It's not as romanticized as the Sonus Faber Lumina 2s. It doesn't disappear like the Quadrovella 1s with that extra bite up top. It doesn't have that extra bass boost of the Bucart P300s. It's a different type of sound altogether. It is kind of like having an excited studio monitor in my living room, and if that's the type of sound you enjoy, then I get it. So now, after giving these speakers a second listen, I totally understand why so many audiophiles were gushing about this speaker. It's a very neutral, very balanced, very tight, controlled, detailed, closer to the source type of sound. And provided that you have enough power on hand, you'll get the most that you can out of these speakers. But personally, if I'm being completely honest, it's not for me.